Hey y'all, welcome to today's show. We're going to continue our discussion about the medicinal uses of various trees. This is all from my book, the, what is it, Look Up? Well, let me get you the full title. You know, I am awful at remembering the titles of my books. Let's see here. The Medicinal Trees of the American South Mid-Atlantic Region. Full title is Look Up, the Medicinal Trees of American South, the Mid-Atlantic Region. And I titled it that, of course, because most people don't think of trees as herbs. It really surprises people when you tell them that among the most useful and powerful herbs are actually the trees that are all around them all the time, easy to identify. And people just, kind of take them for granted. But today we're going to talk about one that people really take for granted, and it's the Buckeye. Latin name Aesculus, Aesculus. Now, I don't know about where y'all live, but I guess it's a pretty popular tree in Ohio. But in North Carolina, most people consider it sort of a nuisance tree, a weedy tree. I don't know why. They're very hard to kill. You can absolutely cut them down and they'll keep coming back and back and back. And that's not a bad thing, actually. If you look up coppicing or pollarding, those are the ways people used to grow trees for firewood and for, actually carving stuff like spindles for chairs and such, all kinds of stuff. There's certain trees, black locust is another one that's very good. Willow can be coppiced. I think elm's good. There's probably a list of them somewhere. You can cut the trees down, and you cut them down to, a stump, essentially. And it'll put out, from one to some of them even put out 12 little shoots of new trees coming from that one stump. You let them grow another couple of years, and then you go back and you cut them for whatever you need, and they grow back. And you can manage a woodlot like that rather than clear cutting it, rather than having to continually plant new trees or go in and selectively take out a large tree. You can grow a great deal of fuel. Really, England, their fuel for their fires for hundreds of years until they basically banned fireplaces, I guess in the 80s, was coppice trees. And those trees were used for fences. They were used for, everything. Like I said, furniture making, basket weaving, fence making, wattles. It's a type of temporary fencing they would do for pigs and such. Super useful and something almost unknown to Americans. I've known a lot of people in the forestry industry, and they really have no idea about coppicing or pollarding. It's really something that, I don't know. I guess when our ancestors came to America, we just had such abundant forest. They didn't really have to think about managing the forests very much. In fact, what they call the cradle of American forestry is actually the Pisgah National Forest, where I live. It was essentially bought by the Vanderbilts to be managed for the timber they needed for their industries. That's why, Biltmore's over in Asheville. The Vanderbilts loved the Appalachian Mountains. I think, that was certainly good. And now Pisgah's a national forest, and I take full advantage of it. So that's one of the few good things the Vanderbilts ever did. They were also very influential, especially the wife, in championing the folk arts of the Appalachians. The carpenters, the carvers, the potters, the John Campbell Folk School. There are a couple of them that were totally funded. Southern Highlands Craft Guild. Quilters, weavers, all that great stuff that, traditional folks in Appalachia did, the stuff I grew up with, probably would have died out in the Industrial Revolution had it not been for the money of the Vanderbilts. So they did that. That's great. Turns out they were also Satan worshipers. Yeah, Satanists, seriously. And really not, yeah. I don't know. To me, there's a darkness about Asheville, North Carolina. There are a lot of witches over there, a lot of pagans and New Age types, but apparently the Vanderbilts did have a huge influence in a lot of aspects over there. And I don't know, to me, there's a darkness about the town. There's just a negative feeling, not a good place to be. Now, I know other people love it, but I've been in and out there all my life, and there are some very beautiful areas and some of the best restaurants in the entire country. But they call it the San Francisco of the South for a reason. You got thousands of homeless people living on the streets, crapping on the sidewalk, using drugs in public, and there's a I don't know, there's a dark spirit to me. Again, it's just my personal opinion about Asheville, North Carolina. And I've had some very good times there. I've had some very good friends there. But when I think about the city of Asheville, I don't have a good feeling about it whatsoever. And I just wonder, was that the influence of the Vanderbilts with their, Satan worship and such, and the various buildings they designed that, seem to have some occult elements to the design of the buildings. I don't know. I don't know at all. But anyway, naturally gorgeous area. Buncombe County is one of the prettiest places on the face of the earth. And as I said, some of the best restaurants. There's a guy over there that weaves baskets that went to the University of Georgia, same school I went to, and he's great. Some of their, galleries are really, really nice. But, sunset comes and like 10,000 hippies and witches take over the town and have a drum circle till all hours of the night, taking all kinds of hallucinogens, and who knows what they're up to. If they're conjuring evil spirits, I have no idea. But definitely politically far to the left. Now, if you listen to the show and you live in Asheville and you think it's great, just understand, I grew up in Boone. I'm not putting Asheville down just because it's a liberal hippie town. To me, there actually is something that just doesn't feel right about the place. But again, that's just me. So now let's talk about the Aesculus, the Buckeye. You will probably be really surprised about this tree. 10 varieties of Buckeyes have been used medicinally. That's the California Buckeye, the Sweet Buckeye, the Ohio Buckeye, the Horse Chestnut, which is, I think, the one we mainly have in our area. I think it's probably the most common. The Chinese Horse Chestnut, the Indian Horse Chestnut, the Red Buckeye, and the Japanese Horse Nut, and another one called a Red Horse Nut, which is actually a hybrid. Aesculus X carnea, which means it was crossed with something else. It's funny, again, in my area, people try to eradicate them. They don't want them on their property. And here's someone who's actually breeding one in Japan. So, of all the above, only 3 are native to my region. Aesculus flava, which I didn't even mention, which is yellow Buckeye. Yeah, we do have a lot of those. And the red Buckeye and the painted Buckeye. With one naturalized, that being the horse chestnut, which is really the one I see most often. It's actually Aesculus hippocastum, but honestly, I say most often, probably the yellow Buckeye is at least as common. In the mountains where I live. Like I said, they are remarkably tough trees. You will have a very hard time killing a Buckeye. The way you actually do it is something I do not recommend you ever do to a tree unless you really want to kill this tree. And what it is you cut there's a word for it, you cut a circle of bark off of the trunk. All the wood of the tree is essentially not, what would we say, how do I put this? There's actually a word, and I am blanking on this, and I mean, I did okay in forestry classes. Phylum, gosh, I cannot remember. Anyway, most of the circulatory aspect of a tree, the capillary action of the tree, that actually brings water up from the roots into the tree and takes the sunlight, the energy down to the roots and makes the tree grow, happens in the layer of wood just underneath the bark. If you cut into that and you ring the tree is what they call it. So you cut the bark off on all sides in a ringed circle around the tree will die. That is the surest way to kill a tree. If you actually have to kill a tree, that is the way to do it. Like I said, if you just cut it off as a stump, next year it's going to grow right back. I mean, they're really tough trees. So, their fruit does look like a chestnut, but it's inedible for humans. That's why it's called a horse chestnut. They're great for firewood. Like I said, they're great to be coppiced. They're pretty good for carving. Actually, they're really good for carving. You can make chairs out of them. Look up the old, Windsor chair. You can absolutely make that out of a coppiced buckeye. And that is extreme talent. I mean, yeah, I can make a ladder back. Yeah. A Windsor is like, wow, okay? Or look up what they call Welsh stick chairs, same kind of thing. They were made from coppiced wood. The Welsh were historically very poor. They couldn't just take a whole tree and cut it down and turn it into wood. In fact, that tree probably belonged to an English landowner, so they could not by law cut the tree. The Welsh have been very poorly treated by the English for hundreds of years. But they could take coppiced wood, and they made what were called stick chairs, and they're absolutely beautiful. They're incredible works of craftsmanship that you cannot buy in a store these days. This is not pressed pine saw crap from China. So, useful parts of the buckeye are the peeled seed or the live inner bark. That I was just explaining to you. The bark can be taken from pruned branches, and it is very useful for poor circulation and what's called a claudication or swelling of the ankles, also known as edema these days. Fluid retention in the ankles. It improves the charge of venous capillaries and veins. Blood rising from the legs is thick, and when you stand a lot, the fluid pools in the feet and ankles. That's what causes varicose veins. Essentially, that thick blood is hard to pump up. It kind of stretches out the veins and makes the tissue boggy. Buckeye is good for venous congestion in the legs, spidery veins. It can be used topically and internally. Buckeye can be used as a tea with witch hazel or hyssop, and is best combined with butcher's broom. Now, each of those have a little toxicity. While you can use small amounts internally, as a bath or a soak, it's really good. Caution should be used with any internal use of buckeye. Very small amounts in tinctures may be used for spasmodic coughs or bronchial tightness. The infusion or tea, I would really just use it externally, even though it does have historic folk use, especially among the Cherokee and such, as a tea. But externally, buckeye used for varicose veins, hemorrhoids, and arthritis is fantastic. It helps with circulation and it shrinks the tissue. So really, really good. Now, if you're going to use it internally, there's actually a homeopathic remedy using buckeye for varicose veins. That would be the way I'd go. Homeopathic remedies are not toxic. Essentially, the substance is so diluted that it's no longer toxic, but it still works. Buckeye or horse chestnut has been long used as an astringent and anti-inflammatory herb. It is analgesic and diuretic, so it actually reduces pain and gets rid of the extra fluid. It's hemostatic, means it's good for the liver, and vasoconstrictive, which means it tonifies and tightens the vein tissue. The root may be useful for chest pains. Going back to, Miss Grieve said the bark has a tonic, narcotic, and febrifuge property. Now, what she means by narcotic is just lowers heart rate and respiration. It has been used in intermittent fevers, that's usually malaria, given an infusion of 1 ounce to the pint. Okay, so when you make a tea of a tree, a woody thing, a root of any kind, really, an infusion, as we say, we call it a decoction. And what that means is you put it in with, say, I don't know, a quart, 2 quarts, half a gallon, whatever, of water, and you boil it until it's reduced by half. That's a decoction. So 1 ounce of the herb was boiled down to make the decoction, and then was given in a tablespoonful dose, so a very small amount. And even then, internal use is a little dangerous, but if you learn to work with it, I work with a lot of dangerous herbs. You just I take risks. You shouldn't, but I do. Using just a little bit at a time, not like, drinking a whole cup of the stuff, as an external application to ulcers.